Hey everyone, welcome to r/malicious compliance, where people tend to get exactly what they deserve. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got some stories for you. Putting away delivery takes top priority, no matter what. A while back I worked at a fantastic Midwestern gas station in the town I live in. They were pretty short-staffed when I applied, and I was kind of desperate for a job, so I was really excited when I joined even part-time. I learned the ropes pretty quickly as there really wasn't too much that differed from the previous jobs I've held. My boss, we'll call her Helga, 'cause it's such an ugly name, constantly complimented me on how well I was doing so quickly. It made me feel great. Soon after this, an opportunity for a full-time position became available. Overnights. Not ideal, but full-time. I quickly accepted and began that training immediately. I was trained partly by the assistant manager, who we'll call Brad. Brad had been at the store a few years and showed me a few tips and tricks to make the nightly routine go by much quicker. The routine was pretty much the same every night. General cleaning of store, deep cleaning of food/drink makers, restocking, and making breakfast in the morning hours. The only difference came on delivery nights, which were twice a week. Now, on the overnights, usually only one person is on. On delivery nights, however, a second worker would come in partway through the shift to specifically help with putting the items away so that other work could still be done in a timely manner. Brad was usually that guy. The first weeks went smooth as butter. One delivery night, however, Brad was sick and no one could cover for him. Not a problem, I thought. I could just do as much of the delivery as possible while still managing to get my other duties done. I managed to get through a good 85% of it, mostly the cold goods, and things that needed to be put in the refrigerator and freezer. The remaining items were placed neatly at the end of the food island and out of the way of any customers. I finished my morning duties and waited for my relief. I felt good about what I had done, and figured Helga would see my effort and feel the same way. Nope, I was wrong. Immediately upon entering the store, Helga saw the items still sitting on the floor at the end of the island. She didn't initially say anything, so I didn't think much of it. I waited the last few minutes to clock out and went over to the computer to do so. As I'm about to leave, Helga stops me and pulls me aside. She asks me why hadn't the delivery been put away as usual. I explained to her that Brad had not been in the night before to assist me with the delivery, and that I still wanted to be able to finish my other nightly duties. So I did what I thought was necessary and then I moved on. I explained to her that if I hadn't stopped when I did that morning, food would not have been prepared and the next shift would be slammed making food trying to get out basic stuff along with special orders that inevitably came every morning. She looked at me for a moment before going on a tangent about how delivery is the most important thing to worry about, and how I was wrong for doing what I did. I was taken aback because I really thought I had done right, but apparently not. She concluded with, "Next time, finish putting the delivery away before anything else." Cue malicious compliance. I had to wait about a month or so before I could actually act on this, unfortunately. My boss felt it unnecessary to have a second person helping on deliveries anymore. I could not give you the slightest reason as to why, but my time had come. On a nice Thursday night, the delivery arrived approximately 2 hours late. I completed my other duties that could be done prior to the delivery. After it was offloaded from the truck, I immediately began working on putting it all away. Backstory to this specific delivery. We had some electrical issues prior, which ruined some product and some back ordering as well, which to those who don't know means that some items weren't able to come on the previous truck due to stock issues in the warehouses. So this delivery was huge, like almost twice as many boxes as the usual delivery, but this is priority, so I focused on it. It was about 20 minutes or so before the shift exchange when I finally got to finishing putting this stuff away. Approximately 6 hours from the start. But I got it all put away. I was happy. There was one problem. Breakfast wasn't made, and nothing was prepped for the Friday sale we have every Friday for pizza. Usually, I would have had 10 or so pizzas prepared for the next shift, so they can just whip them into the oven and start on other things. I also usually would have had the breakfast area full of fresh sandwiches and whatnot, but not today. Shift change happens and Helga walks in with a smile on her face. She notices that this time there are no boxes on the end of the island and seemed ecstatic. until she walks a little further down the line and notices there's no food in the warmer. She then goes to the kitchen to look in the fridge and notices there are no pizzas prepared. Her face turns a shade of red I've never seen before, and she immediately returned to the front and called me back. I complied and walked to the back with her, fully knowing what was about to come. She exploded at me, asking why there was no food prepared and that today is a busy day and that she wasn't going to stand for this kind of laziness. I let her finish her rant before I answered. Well, the delivery was a bit bigger this time because of all the extra stuff, and honestly, I'm surprised I got it done. But I got it done because that's what you told me to do. I wish Brad would have been here to help. This delivery was huge. I clocked out after a few more minutes of her telling me I was wrong, and all that, yada yada. I didn't really care to continue the conversation and knew I had made my point. I came back a couple hours later to buy some things for home. The poor kitchen staff were still struggling to get enough food out to satiate the morning crowd. But at least the delivery was put away. Yep, boss tells you to work on a delivery, you work on a delivery. Gonna try to return an item with no tag or SKU? Watch me destroy it in front of you then. I work at a chain retail discount home goods store where the main demographic is older women. We have a very clear and somewhat strict return policy due to the amount of people that have abused returns in the past, stealing and returning to launder money. But it's simple and printed at the bottom of every receipt. Unused merchandise can be returned with the original receipt and packaging within 30 days. Simple as that. Today I had an older woman, probably late 60s, early 70s, come in with a return. I gave my usual, anything wrong with it, or did it just not work out for you? As she hands over the bag with the receipt. No, it's a headband, but when I unwrapped it, I realized it's not the style I wanted, she explained. All right, I said, as I took the headband out of the bag. No packaging, no tag, no SKU, just a piece of gray fabric. A bandeau wrap, if you know what that is. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't take this as a return since there isn't any packaging or SKU number, I said. What? But I have the receipt. That's all I need for a return. She was already getting snappy and angry with me, and when customers act like this, it just makes me want to help them less. Nevertheless, I kept my customer service smile and voice on for her. Ma'am, at the bottom of your receipt here, you can see where our return policy is as stated. I explained calmly while pointing out the policy to her. Well, the receipt should be all I need. I want my money back. At this point, I'm done arguing with her. I ask her if she wants to speak with my manager regarding the policy, and of course she says yes. I go to the office to get my manager, mid-60s, who's on an important conference call with the other managers of the district. I explain what's happening to her, and she says, "Oh, we'll get this straightened," with a smirk on her face. I follow my manager out of the office and back to the register, where the woman is still pouting. Now, my manager doesn't put up with any crap and trusts me probably more than any other employee to deal with irate customers. But she knows that since I'm only 20, a lot of these older women refuse to take what I say seriously, and will only hear it from the mouth of someone much older. My manager opens the bag and looks at the woman with a straight face. So, no packaging? Not even a tag, she asks. No, the woman replies, this time a little less aggressively. Accepting this return would be breaking company policy, my manager says bluntly. But it isn't worth losing a customer over $2.99, so we'll do it this one time. Please keep your tags in the future, she says. Cue the malicious compliance. My manager turns to me as I input the return into the POS and says firmly so that the customer can hear, "Damage it out and throw it away. Make sure you destroy it too." So I do as I'm told. I grab the scissors from my register's pencil cup and begin hacking away at the headband, slicing it up as messily as I can right over the counter in front of the customer. "What are you doing?" She almost yells at me. "We're very serious about following company policy here, ma'am, and since you don't have the original packaging or tags, we can't resell this," I say as I chuck the shredded bits of fabric in the trash can. "I could have used that as a dust rag," she protests. At this point, I know for a fact that my manager is sitting in the office quietly listening and snickering to herself. I finish up the return and give the woman her $2.99 back with a friendly, "Have a nice evening," as she walks out the door. The woman in line behind her comes up to the register, and as I'm scanning her items, she says, "You don't realize how stupid and entitled the general public is until you work retail." I couldn't agree more. Yep, people think they can get away with anything. No remorse, no regret, no thought for the fact that they're actually stealing when they do that. Teacher says I can't have a cupcake that my mom made. This story happened back when I was in grade 6. I was a good student, not the class clown, and I had never been in trouble before. I had a little bit of malicious compliance, but it mostly came from my mom in this story. Cast of characters. Me, Mrs. B, mean teacher, and Mom, my mom. In grade 6, I was in my school's production of Grease, which took place in the evenings after school in our school's theater. The schools were later in the evening, and with having to be there early for makeup and getting ready, I was at the school from about 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the production, which showed for 3 days. On the first night, I had my dinner before the show, around 4:30, and towards the first intermission, I was getting very hungry. So I ended up letting my mom know during intermission that I was extremely hungry, and she donated about $3 to the bake sale and grabbed me one of the cupcakes that she made and quickly handed it off to me through the door, which was the access to the backstage. Note, I never left backstage and my mom was the only one to see me in my costume, which she helped make. As I turned around with my cupcake and headed back to my dressing room, I heard a throat clear and I see Mrs. B, who was just a volunteer supervisor for a musical, and not the teacher in charge of my school's musical. Mrs. B. "What is that?" Me. "It's a cupcake." Mrs. B. "Where did you get it?" Me. "The bake sale. My mom made it." Mrs. B. "Those are for the audience and are meant to be a fundraiser. You're not supposed to leave backstage. The audience can't see you in your costume." Me. "I'm sorry, I was really hungry and I wasn't going to make it until the end of the show. I let my mom know I was hungry and she donated the money to the sale and gave me one of the cupcakes she made. I thought it would be okay since we gave money and she just gave it to me through the door to the backstage." Mrs. B. "That's not okay. Those are not meant for you. You can't eat it." Me. "Okay, I can put it back then. I had only touched the liner." Mrs. B. "You touched it. You can't put it back." Me. "Okay, so I can't eat it and I can't put it back?" Mrs. B. "That's right." Me. "Okay." Cue my small act of malicious compliance. So I walked over to the garbage can and I threw it out and walked back to my dressing room. After the show, I explained what happened to my mom and she was a little ticked off. Since she donated money, I was now extremely hungry and had a stomachache. Then the next day when I got to school, I was called to the principal's office since Mrs. B complained that I was disrespectful to her at the show. I explained what happened to the principal and ultimately nothing came of it. But I had to go back to class with Mrs. B, who looked so smug. Once I got home from school that day, I told my mom that I had been called to the principal's office over the cupcake incident, and she was livid that this teacher was on such a power trip and had me pulled out of class over a cupcake. So she decided that instead of donating her cookies that she made for the bake sale for that night show, she taped a note to the Tupperware container that said, "Cookies for the cast from Tooncouver's mom," and ran to the store to get a big box of oranges and also added a note saying, "Oranges for the cast from Tooncouver's mom," which she told me to share with the cast. So later that night, when I was hungry, I grabbed one of my cookies, and Mrs. B saw me snacking on it. She came over with a red face looking very mad. Mrs. B. "This is ridiculous. After yesterday, how could you not follow my instructions?" Me. "Wait, I have something to show you." I ran over and got the lid of the container, with the note which I showed her. Mrs. B. "Well." Me. "Is there a problem? Do you need to talk to my mom?" Mrs. B. "No, it's fine." Clearly it wasn't, since she looked like the vein in her forehead was going to burst. Me. "That's great," and walked away. Unfortunately, I had to finish the rest of the school year with her, which was far from pleasant. But man, I really appreciated how my mom had my back. That's really awesome, OP. I'm glad your mom had your back like that. I did it my way. Many moons ago, after I married a narcissist a-hole, he started revealing his D-baggery in subtle, stupid ways. One way was he stopped doing his chores and stopped cleaning up after himself altogether. That was really insulting because I had always worked a full-time job, and before we had wed, I had been very clear that I was not going to be a housewife, that we would do things equally. Well, his answer to that was to say that I couldn't make him do anything. If I wanted the house clean, I'd have to do it myself. Slow burn. For some reason, this made me think of the Simpsons episode with Blinky the Three-Eyed Fish, where Homer says to Marge she can express herself with her lovely home. So I replied the way Marge did. "Okay, I will," I said, and immediately set to work. Starting with the living room, I gathered my now ex's jacket and clothing he'd left strewn about, and tossed them on his computer chair. His backpack and books also dropped on the computer chair. Then I went in the kitchen and took his dirty dishes, and boom, onto the chair. His dirty laundry, plop, onto the chair, which had fallen over by now, etc., until the house was clean. Yay! Now, my ex couldn't use his PC till he cleaned up his crap. That first night, he took it like a man. The next night, when I dumped all his stuff on his chair, and for good measure, vacuumed the rug and dumped the canister over his crap, he squealed like a pig. "What are you doing?" "I'm cleaning," I answered him. "You wanted me to do it all. Well, this is how I'm going to do it." He started doing his chores after that. The divorce came later. Whoa, my first gold. I'd like to thank the Academy. A silver. You like me. You really like me. Platinum. This is for the little people. Good job, OP.
Alright folks, that's all the stories we have for you today. If you like our content, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Have a great day.